Why, yes, it's our favorite time of the month. It's the time we bring in Kimmy Sokol from the pod break to break down a wrestling topic of her choice. And this month, we have decided to do the state of Ring of Honor Wrestling. Ashlee, Kimmy, how are you doing?
You know, day turned around when we heard the announcement at noon that Final Battle is coming back home to Hammerstein in my home city in New York. Best day ever.
This is very cool. This is like good to know the venue. As we were just discussing beforehand, we don't know when this is happening yet.
You know, it's sometime in December. At least we know the building now. At least we know we're getting a Final Battle.
Listen, there was a lot of tension that there might not. Have you been watching Ring of Honor? What are we doing here?
Honestly, Kimmy, until today, I was literally almost planning on not having a Ring of Honor Final Battle this year, and maybe they just punt it and come back to it in 2025.
No, they couldn't do that. Listen, Final Battle was one of the first events that Tony put on when he bought the company. He talks every year about the history, especially when talking about Mark and Jay Briscoe. They had that dedication match to him last year. There was no way we were not having one. I think, Hammerstein Ballroom is a little bit of a pricey venue to rent out, so Tony wanted to make sure it was feasible first.
Fair point, because like you said, that is a very expensive building in New York City. So, ladies, my first question for you. If I gave you control, or if Tony Khan gave you control of Ring of Honor TV, how you would make it different than the AEW product?
I would have a board of directors that actually shows up every week and not just when he decides to. We've had 3 different board of directors here since Tony Khan's been in charge.
Yeah, there's going to be some stability with something that should be relatively simple here.
Also, our champs. Where are the Von Erichs? I have not seen them. They are the 6-man champs. But Dustin, who's a double champ, can appear on everything.
Yeah, and it's weird to have the tag teams challenge Dustin and Sammy that they have, because they appear, like Dark Order, for instance, very heel on Ring of Honor. Then they show up in AEW and they're very babyface. So there's no continuity between the brands, but you're moving the same people between the brands.
And Sammy too has been acting like such a heel for being a babyface tag team.
I think that's just his natural demeanor.
That's even worse.
Well, Ashlee, like a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how I felt like AEW version of Ring of Honor felt like WWE's version of ECW. It felt like they had the sort of dreamings of the actual company, but they didn't have the heart of the company, which is kind of surprising because Tony Khan is a big fan of Ring of Honor, and he talks about the love of the history of Ring of Honor. It just feels like he doesn't have the soul of Ring of Honor in his Ring of Honor.
I think the problem is, most of the Ring of Honor episodes are taped like after Collision's over or before Collision, so no one's really there. And if it's happening after Collision, everyone's tired, including Tony Khan. He has so much to do originally. So I think in 2025, if possible, because there's also rumors of a TV deal, if he could just find a day and find a person to be the overhead of all that, I am available if he's taking anybody or any suggestions, but someone that could just do it for him. He doesn't need to be in 20 different places. He could be at the pay-per-views, but have someone help.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday alone, I went to the tapings, and Ring of Honor taped until midnight. I mean, that's a weeknight. You're not always going to have people available to stay that late with work the next morning for a lot of people.
Or children with school.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's one thing I would do. I would break away Ring of Honor from AEW tapings. And I would literally keep Ring of Honor tapings up in the Northeast near Kimmy. You can hit Boston. You can hit New York. You can hit Philadelphia. The traditional Ring of Honor markets.
Yeah, I don't understand we saw AEW try dark shows and it didn't seem to pan out. Instead of running Ring of Honor, run 2 or 3 dark matches before anything to try out stuff there. I mean, if you're not going to run the complete dark shows, it gives you some time and leeway to get people to, get some chemistry working together, try some stuff out.
I think the other problem too is like nothing legitimately happens in Ring of Honor.
True.
You do not have to watch the weekly program to watch the pay-per-views. Where in AEW you have to, because you have to understand the story. Ring of Honor, I have so many of my friends who just watch the pay-per-views, don't watch the episodes, and then they ask me when they do their predictions, who's going to win? You know why I know? Because I paid the $9.99 a month for Ring of Honor to break my heart from Thursdays from 7 to 8:30.
Right. The only consistent story they've had is Athena.
My minion overlord.
I mean, and she's great, but I don't know what Tony Khan expects her to do.
Neither do I.
See, the other thing is there's such a lack of, oh, hey, here's 5 minutes where we can recap what happened on Ring of Honor on AEW TV, even though they literally have every Ring of Honor champion besides Athena on the freaking show.
They do it on their social media, though. Ian does like a quick top 5 of everything that happens. They usually post it like Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fine, but I'm thinking if you can spare 5 minutes in Dynamite or 5 minutes in Collision, go like, this is what happened on Ring of Honor. This is why you need to watch Ring of Honor, so you create that fear of missing out. That's one thing.
Right, just run a commercial for Honor Club or something.
I would rather just run the commercial, because I feel like if you put if you do the recap, it's like, oh, Ring of Honor and AEW are the same, where it's not the same. There are people that are strictly on that brand that won't appear in AEW. Since Red Velvet's won the TV title, have we seen her on AEW programming?
No.
And that's how it should be, though, honestly. We do need a little bit of separation here.
I agree with you. I feel like there should be a brand split with a certain roster for Ring of Honor and a AEW roster. And you can move people around occasionally. Just don't do it like the WWE where you kind of forget the rules after a while.
Well, we see how those draftees are doing.
Oh, I know. They're not great whatsoever. So my second question for you ladies. Since we just decided how to run Ring of Honor TV, who would you personally put in charge of Ring of Honor if Tony called you up and said, hey, who's your selection to help me run this company?
Myself. Oh, not me?
Well, I already assumed that you and Athena had something working together, so I was thinking that you might not have something to do, you know what I'm saying?
So if it's not me, if I can't do that, I would say Maria Kanellis, because she's been in that position before. She's done creative. She did the whole women's tournament with Bobby Cruz. She has the experience. She's been here for 20 plus years. So Maria Kanellis.
See, Kim, you still my answer, but I agree with you so much because that was one of the best women's tournaments right before they closed the original Ring of Honor down. That tournament was great.
I agree.
Honestly, that's very hard to argue.
See, my secondary choice is Kimmy Tip and my Maria Kanellis Bennett would have been like Daniel Bryan and Nigel McGuinness. Put the 2 greatest Ring of Honor champions of all time together and let them run the freaking company.
If Daniel wants.
If Daniel wants, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of very prominent and well-known talents from Ring of Honor that I'm sure if they were interested in transitioning into that side, could do a very good job. And we see how much Tony Khan, like Kimmy said, is doing outside of wrestling and just in general. He needs some help with this.
He's a very stressed out man.
I think we have some choices, and I honestly feel like whoever you do put in charge of this company needs to be an ROH original, somebody who understands the Ring of Honor fan and how to translate that into 2025.
Yes, especially if they're looking at something like a TV deal.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of that, let's go to my next question for you. Who should be the person to dethrone Chris Jericho as the current Ring of Honor World Champion? Because Ashlee, Kimmy, we tried this like 2 years ago to get a TV deal. It didn't work. Why are we trying to do this again?
The reason is because, well, as I stated on multiple podcasts, and everyone called me crazy, when AEW was working out their TV deal, the one thing that AEW was willing to offer was Chris Jericho as a champion, because that's how you legitimize your company, because everyone knows who Chris Jericho is. They know him from WWE, they know him from Fozzy, so that is your brand, is, oh, we're going to have Chris Jericho here? Awesome. Everyone knows him, people are going to tune in. But I think Shane Taylor will be the one to dethrone Chris Jericho, and the entire Shane Taylor promotions will all be champions by Death Before Dishonor 2025.
As they should be. The Infantry should have won the tag team titles a few months back against the Undisputed Kingdom.
I agree.
Well, I was thinking maybe we run it back with Mark Briscoe. And I feel like that Ladder Wars match they had on that episode of Dynamite did not do any favors for one Mark Briscoe. And oh, by the way, calling it a Ladder War was not good either, because let's go Google ROH Ladder Wars and then watch that Dynamite match. You're going to be disappointed.
There were people who were literally tweeting what Ladder War was, and then I felt the justice to tweet out what Ladder War was, and I got a lot of respect for that.
So, my final question for you guys, since we know now we have a ROH final battle, what is your main event? If Tony Khan calls you up, goes like, you get to do the main event of the show, whatever match you want to have, who are we having?
Athena versus Billy Starks.
Yeah. And that'll be a Ladder War for the first ever women's Ladder War match.
Ooh, Kimmy, I love that idea. That literally should be the main event of this final battle, because Athena has literally put that whole company on her back for the last year and a half to almost 2 years. And it's the best feud going in that company and best storyline going in that company.
Well, I think there's a lot to it too. One final battle will be the one Ring of Honor pay-per-view that Athena could do it twice and main event back-to-back, being the first female to do it. I think with the historics of Hammerstein, you need a Ladder War, because most final battle main events were Ladder War, so continue that tradition. And I think too, it's the full circle of Billy finally doing it on the biggest stage in the biggest arena for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and completely, like, we've still seen her, like, in that sphere, but, like, to finally break away and prove herself to Athena is going to be awesome to see.
And then Athena can, like, come to AEW TV in
Yes.
2025. Her and Mercedes for All In Texas.
Her versus Jamie Hayter. Give it to me, Tony Khan.
How about, the first pay-per-view of 2025 being Athena versus Mariah May for that AEW Women's World title?
Yep.
Well, we have a Tony Storm and a Mina coming back. You never know.
Fair point. But as I'm out here in booking land, I'll decide to toss one out myself. Kimmy, what do you have coming up on the pod break at, sir? What are you reviewing in the coming week?
Oof. Nothing. I'm not doing anything till Full Gear predictions next week. All my Full Gear coverage will be on there. But yeah, nothing. My friend Ella J has her Kurt Angle interview coming to the pop break tomorrow, which is today when this airs.
So when you get done watching this, slide over and watch Ella J interview Kurt freaking Angle.